how about you give us your name and your job? What's your job?
My name is Russell Chatham, and my job is to paint pictures.
My name is AJ Scaff, and I work for Russell Chatham. In the short time I have worked for him, I've come to know a quiet, honest, and simple man of rich depth. In watching him work, he's a steady and passionate craftsman at painting, known for works that capture the grand impressions of the big sky country in Montana and its seemingly endless essences. He's measured in his every move, and while his needs are few, can have, like anyone, his daily problems, and these make him very human. I'd asked to interview him for another project I'm doing, but because I've come to notice we ourselves have similar backgrounds and tastes between us, I wanted to record more for biographical and reflective reasons. I wanted this fairly solitary and easygoing guy in the always present overalls relay to others not in his world and circle what makes him tick and what he's about.
You know, by all accounts, perhaps a pretty odd occupation. It's not a job in the traditional sense, one which I started out having other artists in the family painting when I was like 7, 8 years old. But it is what I suppose you'd have to say I was born to do. And so I didn't have a choice. I didn't choose it, it chose me. My father had a tremendous amount of natural ability. I mean, he could draw beautifully. And he was very sensitive. I mean, his degree in Stanford was in literature, you know, and he could memorize vast amounts of poetry and all these things. On the other hand, on my mother's side, which is the Piazzoni, my father was English, Chatham, okay? First Earl of Chatham, William Pitt. So, you know, and on my mother's side, they were Swiss-Italian peasants, which is why I'm comfortable sleeping under a trestle and going to dinner in a castle. Yeah. So, but on my mother's side, my grandfather was born in Switzerland, came to America in about 1886, probably one of the early travelers on the Transcontinental Railroad, by the way. So growing up, we had his paintings in the house. There was, in not only my immediate family, but amongst my aunts, uncles, cousins, and so forth, there was a general attitude in that art and artists mattered. And as I say, my grandfather was truly a great painter. And so that's what I saw growing up, was his paintings. And naturally, that affected me, and it was the single strongest influence on me and in my work. So this is a really famous image, a photograph of my grandfather by Ansel Adams. He's up on a scaffold that was built especially for him to paint these murals that were in the San Francisco Public Library. They were installed in 1931 and 1932. And you can see the way the picture's lit. The skylight is right above. These things are like 10 or 12 feet high, very stylized. There are 10 panels. There was 5 called The Land, which are pictured in here. And on the other wall, it was called The Sea. And it was in one of his published portfolios. And it's a fabulous photograph. And so years ago, I after Ansel had passed away, and I actually knew Ansel too, I called the trust in California, it's in Carmel, and I asked if they had a copy of this available, because there were one or two portfolios, and this was one where somebody convinced Ansel to destroy the negative. So this is very rare. So I said, you wouldn't have a proof that you could possibly have for sale? And they said, yeah, we do. We actually do have one. And I said, well, that's fantastic. I said, well, how much would it cost? And the lady said, $10,000. I said, well, that's nice, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Well, some years later, I have a relationship with an art dealer in Ketchum, Idaho, John Bruschowski, and he called me one day and he said, somebody brought this photograph of your grandfather in, and he said, I thought maybe you'd like to have it. I said, John, yeah, I'd like to have it. I said, but I also happen to know what they're worth. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. He says, I'm giving it to you anyway. So he packed it up and sent it to me. So it was quite a lovely gesture. So now I have it.
Oh, that's great.